Right. So today we are going to talk about further customization of the Salesforce app, and we will be specifically talking about automation. Right. So how can you automate things? Right. So sometimes you need to automate a few things. It can be a process. It can be just some data updation which needs to be automated. Right. So first thing that we are going to talk here is a formula. Okay. So with the help of formula, sometimes we want to populate the value automatically instead of you manually calculating the value. You just want to automate the value automatically. Okay, you just want to populate the value. So first of all, let's see how we can use formula. For example, let's say you have a field called amount. Okay, or if you have a field called price, and you want to have another field called discount. Now, if discount needs to be calculated automatically, let's say discount is 9.93%, and you just want to make sure that this gets calculated automatically, okay, instead of you manually calculating and entering the value of it. So that can be done with the help of a formula. So formula is pretty easy thing. It's basically a field type. In Salesforce, there's a field type called formula, and when you use that formula field type, you will be able to put a formula in that field, which will take a reference from some other object and update the record. Okay, so it will take a reference from some other field and update the record. Right. Let's do a small example so that you can understand it better. Okay. Uh, let me come to the opportunities object. Now, if you look into an opportunity, you already have the amount field here, right? Let's say I want to have one more field, which is discount. Okay, and discount is going to be 10% of the amount. Let's say that's the logic. Okay, then what we need to do, all that we have to do is we just have to go ahead and create the formula field here in this particular object. So how do you do that? Just go to setup, go to customize, you want to add the field in opportunity object, so you have to go to opportunities. So whichever object you want to add the field into, you have to select that object. In this case, I want to add the field into opportunities. So I'll need to go to setup, customize opportunities, fields. Here I should create a new field, call it discount. Okay, the field type in this case is going to be a formula field type. Okay, so select formula field type. Then go to next. So discount. Okay. So after the calculation of the value, what should be your return type? Okay. So what is going to be the return type of your value? So in this case, the return type is going to be currency. What are you going to ultimately return? You are just going to return the currency, right? So that's fine. Then go to next. Here you come and write the formula. So what exactly your discount? How much discount calculation should be do? So your formula actually needs to be written here. So my discount is how much? 10% of the amount. That's what I want. Okay. Just click on this advanced formula thing. All that you have to do is you have to take the reference of the amount field. So click on this insert field button. It will allow you to take the reference field amount. You could have typed it also in case you know the name of the field. Otherwise, you can always use it from here. Amount into 0.1. They should make it the 10% of amount, right? So once you have entered the formula, all that you have to do is you just have to click on check syntax, do check syntax, and you will see that there are no syntax errors, so, which is fine. We are good to click on next. Your formula field is ready. Click on visible here, just click on visible here, go to next and save. Right, so it is done. Now if you go to the opportunity, go to any opportunity, you will see that there is a discount field. See, it has got added and the value also got populated automatically, which is 10% of the amount. So now next time you are adding an opportunity, you don't have to fill in the value for discount. You just have to enter the amount value. Discount will be automatically calculated, right? So whenever you have a field which takes a reference from some other field and there is a clearly defined logic that the value of this field is going to be exactly this much, in that case you can always use formulas, right? Let's do a slightly more difficult formula, a little more complex. So this was a pretty straightforward one. Now you try to give the discount based on the price. Okay. Try to put a logic into this. For a product, sorry, for an opportunity where amount is greater than 50,000, discount equals 15%. If amount is greater than 100,000, discount is 20%. If amount less than 50,000, then discount will be 10%. Okay, so I have these three scenarios. So if the amount is less than 50,000, then the discount offered should be 10%. If it is 50 to 100, it should be 15%. And if it is more than 100, then it should be 20%. So this is what we have to do, right? So how do we do that? What is the best way of doing it? We have to just include conditional logic in the formula field. So you can go back to the same formula field and you have to use a logic there. Going back to the formula field will again be the same set of steps. Go to setup, opportunities, fields, go back to your formula field which is called discount. This is the field that you want to edit, right? Come to this field, edit. Okay, now I cannot write the straightforward formula. I just have to put a logic here, conditional logic. So there are some certain functions available here, right? You can write formulas here. If you want to use certain functions, you can take reference of the functions here. Okay, these functions are very similar to Microsoft Excel functions. So there are all types of functions: date and time functions, date, date value, day, month, now, today. These functions will help you work with the date and time. Then we have text functions, which will help you figure out some text strings, length of the text, convert it into the lowercase, mid, right, that sort of things. Mathematical functions, calculation of max, min, square root, these kind of things. Then we have logical functions, where you can, which these functions you can use for putting logics. My logic is going to be the if logic, right? I'm going to use the if logic. Just take this function and click on insert selected function. So the selected function gets inserted. Now, what is the syntax of this function? It's pretty simple. It says if logical test, if perform a logical test here. If it is true, then you should type in what should be the value if it is true, and then value if it is false. So my logical test is going to be if amount greater than, this is what you need to test, right? Amount greater than 100,000 or not. Then the value will be amount into 0.2, 20%. If it is not 100,000, then what? Then amount into 0.1. Okay, let's try to understand this function. So how it is working? You write the if logic, and then there are three parts to this function. The first part basically is where you write what exactly you want to test. In the second part, you write what value you want to return if this is true, if this condition is true, then this should be the value. If that condition is not true, then this should be the value. Got it? Okay. So I've written if amount is 100,000, then make the discount to 20%, otherwise make it 10%. But that's not correct. That's not what I want. If it is not 100,000, then I wanted to check if it is 50,000 or not. If it is more than 50,000, then make it 15%, right? So instead of writing this, I will need to insert another if function. Okay, so if it is 100,000, it's fine. If it is not 100,000, then perform another if test. What is the other if test that needs to be performed? if amount is greater than 50,000, then make it 15%. Else make it 10%. That's it. Check syntax. Yeah. So it does not have any syntax errors. It's fine. Just go ahead and save this. Now go to the opportunities. Click on the opportunity and test if the formula is working fine. See, because this is more than 50,000, discount is not 10% anymore, it is 15%. Okay, edit this and okay, let me work with another opportunity. See, now the amount got increased to 154k, discount is 20% automatically. 30,800 is 20% of this value. So that's how it gets controlled. Alright, clear. Let me know if you have any questions on the formula thing. We clear on it? Any questions, any doubts on this?
Jeet, this is Amar here.
Hmm.
So can we check the value in a, let's say, you check syntactically whether it is correct or not. Semantically, whether can we check, uh, inline,
Sorry, check
like
what?
can we check whether the formula is correct or not, whether it works as per our understanding or not inline, instead of coming back and checking on the actual.
Syntax you can
Uh,
understand. That's what we are doing. The check syntax we are doing. You will understand, the syntax thing from here. If you are on the formula field. So this check syntax option gives you the option to check the syntax. You can definitely check syntax, but you have to go and do the testing there to see whether you have written the correct logic also, right? So syntax wise, if there is any error, it will display here. But if in case instead of this, I have written the logic other way around, something like this. Instead of greater than 100,000, I made it at less than 100,000. Okay, so that's my error, right? So syntax wise, if there is no error, it will still approve. What we are actually going to we are actually checking is that have we applied the logics properly, correct? Right. Okay. So this is one thing. Okay. So formula. This way you can actually make your application do a lot of auto calculations, and it's not just about it's not just about the what do you call it? Um, Mathematical calculations, like something like you have to calculate amount, discount, things like this. It can be related to anything, and it can be related to, for example, um, you have a campaign, and then you have a campaign start date, and you have a logic that every campaign that you do is for 3 days, for example. So you want to automate the end date. So this end date can be made into a formula. Got it? So this end date can be made into a formula where you say start date plus 3. Do you get this? So this is how it works. So in our formula, it's not necessary that we are always dealing with numbers and all. So it can be with the date, it can be with some sort of text. So it actually helps you do automate a lot of stuff. So there are two benefits while you're automating. One is you are actually saving some time for your end users. Secondly, you are actually trying to avoid the human error. If you know that end date of a campaign is always going to be 3 days from the start date, and you just want to make sure that the people who enter it manually don't make mistakes there, you can automate it, right? So if there is, but there is one thing that you have to keep in mind for formula, that for formula you need to have a clearly defined logic, and it should be very very objective. Anything which is subjective, where it can be 3 days or 4 days or 5 days, there your formula will not work. Okay, so you can put formula only if you are sure that it will always be 3 days. There is no chance, not even 0.1% chance of this being 4 days, because formula is something which is a read-only field. It will only calculate automatically. It will not allow you to go and make changes, or any. It will not allow you to make any exceptions in that value. Like in this case, if I have put that 20% discount for an opportunity more than 100,000, now every time there is an opportunity which has an amount more than 100,000, it has to be 20% only, and you have no scope of, no matter what you do, you cannot go and make it 10%. The only way you have is to edit the entire formula, okay? Because this is a completely read-only field, and you do not have the option of, see, this is a locked field. If you see, other fields are not locked, there is a locked field. So that is how it is. So whenever you are putting formula, you have to keep in mind that you are only assuming scenarios where 100% of the records will abide by the formula now. Okay. In case you have another situation that some records may be exceptions, so there is a different way of doing that. We will come to that later. But for formula, every record has to be you know has to be working with the formula logic. That's it, guys. Okay. So, while your formula can actually help you automate certain things, now there is another thing that you would want to do, which is called a validation rule. So, validation rule is not like formula; it's basically a rule. Why do we need this rule? We need this rule to validate data. Validate the data before it is committed to the database. Okay. Why do we need validation rule? We need it to validate the data before it is committed to the database. So any insert or update operation which is happening, a validation rule will go and check if the values are proper or not. The values which are being entered are correct or not. Right? So sometimes you just want to ensure that the end user should be entering the correct value. So let me just go to the same example, the campaign start date, end date. I have the campaign start date and end date. Okay. Now there can be certain scenarios where you have a fixed duration of campaign. Every campaign is going to be 3 days. Okay. That's where you can use the formula. There will be certain situations where you have a different logic. Let's say max duration of my campaign is 15 days. Whatever campaign I do, duration of the campaign is 15 days maximum. Okay, so it can be 1 day, it can be 2 days, but the biggest campaign that we do is 15 days. So I want to ensure that anytime my end user is entering the campaign data, he does not you know, put a campaign where the start date and end date has more than 15 days gap. So end date should not be later than 15 days from the start date. That's the logic what I want to impose here. Here I will put a validation rule, because here there is a complete window from 0 to 15 days which users are allowed, and beyond 15 days they should not be allowed. They should not be able to enter an end date which is more than 15 days from the start date. So what we have to do here, we just have to go and define the validation rule. Okay, so this validation rule is going to be for which object? For campaign. All that you need to do is you just need to go to your setup, customize, opportunities, no, not opportunities. This time I'm going to put it into campaigns. So go to campaigns object. Okay, under the campaign object you will see something called validation rules. All that you have to do is you just have to select the validation rules and define the validation. Okay, so if you read it here, your validation rules help improve data quality by preventing users from saving incorrect data. So wherever you have that scope of users making a mistake by entering incorrect data, you can define a validation rule to restrict the users from entering the incorrect data. So whenever the user enters the incorrect value, it will throw an error. Instead of saving the record, it's gonna throw an error and display the error to the user. You can define one or more validation rules that consist of an error condition and corresponding error message. So all that you have to do in a validation rule is two things. So all that you have to do is in validation rule, you will have one error condition and second error message. Alright, so this is what we have in our validation rule. We have an error condition and we have an error message. That's it. So error condition can be, whatever condition you want to check, and error message is the error message which will be thrown to the users. Okay. So let me do this campaign validation rule. Click on new rule, name it whatever you want. Okay, just give it a name. There's an option of keeping your validation rule active or inactive. Active, whenever it is active, it will work. If it is kept inactive, it will not work. Alright, as simple as that. So let me keep it active. Okay. So this error condition is to be defined with a formula expression, very similar to the way you wrote the formula. Okay. But here we are not calculating value. Here all that we have to do is we just have to write the error criteria. That's it. So my error condition is what? My error condition is campaign end date minus campaign start date is greater than 15. This is what my error condition is, right? So if campaign end date minus start date is greater than 15, then it should throw error. What error? Error message can be written here. Okay. So whatever error message your end users can understand, so just type in that error message. Okay. Now you have the option of choosing the error location, where exactly you want to display the error, at the top of the page or you want to display it beside the field. So if you select beside the field, you can select beside which field. You want to display it beside the end date field or beside the start date field. So you have the option of selecting that. Alright. Let me say sometimes you might want to display the error message just beside that particular field where the error has been made, so that the user can easily understand that. So let me display it beside the end date field and then click on save. Okay. Here also you had the option of checking syntax. So now this is an active validation rule. What is this concept of active validation rule? See, sometimes you have defined a validation rule, but you don't want the validation rule to start working. Okay, you have created it, you just want to keep the validation rule for now, you want to activate it after some time. So all that you have to do is you just have to go to the validation rule and deactivate it. If it is not active, it will not work. It will work only when it is active. Alright. Let me go and create a campaign now because my validation rule is active, so ideally it should work. Create a campaign. See, I try to save it, it gives me an error. What is the error? End date cannot be more than 15 days from start date. It has to be within 15 days from the start date. Right? So this is how your validation tool can help you avoid your end users from making mistakes. The same way if you want to just, okay. Now you want to make your validation tool also a little more complex, or you want to define a few more criteria and conditions there, that can also be done, right? Let's say I just want to make sure that if the type is conference, then it should not be more than 3 days. Okay. If the type is conference, then it should not be more than 3 days or more than 15 days. Okay. Let this logic be same. But at the same time, for others, it can be more than 15 days only when the campaign type is conference, then it cannot be more than 15 days. That's it. That's the condition that we are going to check. Then you just need to go back to that particular validation rule Then what you have to do, you just have to put an AND logic here. There are two things which I need to test here. If type equals concurrence, type is concurrence, and difference between end date and start date is greater than 50, then throw the error message. Okay, so there is a syntax error. What is the error? Field type is a pick list field. Pick list fields are only supported in certain functions. Okay. So this type is a pick list field, and I cannot compare it with concurrence. So I have to convert it into a text field. Yeah, now it doesn't have any errors. Now it's fine. Okay, so now this is going to check two things. If the type is conference and end date minus start date is 50. Okay, you can write it here. End date cannot be more than 15 days from start date. Now this is very particular to the conference type. You can say go to your campaigns. Click on new. It throws an error, right? But if you change the type to something else, if you change it to webinar, then it gets saved. Why? Because your validation rule is checking only if the type is conference, right? But for other types, it's not working on your validation rule because I went there and changed that right condition, right? Simple. Let me know if there is any question or doubt here with the validation rule.
Jeet, here if we have different conditions like if type, if it's conference, then it should be more than only 3 days, and if something at 5 days, this kind of multiple condition comes, then what we need to do?
Then you just need to put one more or condition outside it. So what we did right now was um, hello, yeah, sorry, yeah. So what we wrote there was this, right? Something like if type equals concurrence and what is it? End date minus start date is greater than 50, right? This is what you have written. If you feel that you need to check multiple conditions like this, then you should, all that you have to do is you just have to put an or outside this. Okay. Now all that you need to do is, if it's webinar 3, if it is mailing, whatever, right? So you have to just bring in the or condition outside it. Yep. Any other questions? Now, yeah, go ahead.
So here under error, we have to type the multiple errors, correct?
No. Error
Okay.
message, no. You do not have the option of typing multiple error. Error message is going to be
Okay.
just one. Okay. So it does not allow you to type multiple errors. If you need different errors,
Okay.
then your validation rule can just help you in a way of creating multiple validation rules. When you go and create a different validation rule for this, you create a different one for this, because it does not give us the option of populating a dynamic error. Okay. So error message is just going to be the same, static error message, right? Okay. Now the other thing that I want you guys to do, if anyone has any other question, you can ask.
Yeah, do we have the if condition instead of like we are writing here, branching conference webinar? Can
In
we do we have the formula which suggests
validation,
yeah invalidation?
no, validation does not have the if. The reason is pretty simple, because validation itself is an if condition, right?
Okay.
So if you see, what are you doing in validation loop? If condition is true, so error condition, throw error message, right? So this if condition is already implied on it. So you don't write if inside the formula there. All that you have to do is you just have to write the condition, so the test part of the thing. Got it? All right. Now, the more you understand these functions, like what all functions are there, if is there are date, time functions, and all. The more you understand these things, you will be able to have a good hold on validation rules as well as formulas. Right? But again, it's going to be simple for people who have already used functions in Microsoft Excel. You will find these functions very similar to those. For people who are completely new to the functions, you don't need to worry, or you don't have to learn all of them in a day or two. Just try to look into the simple ones and try to learn them. What is the best way to do that? If you go to your formula field, on the formula field, you will see the list of the functions on the right hand side. If you click on this, you would see the list of functions on the right hand side. Okay, all the functions are listed here. Now we don't need to use all of them. I mean, I have hardly used myself any functions more than 5%. I've hardly used 5% of the functions which are available. Right, a lot of them are of no use. I mean, most of the times we don't use them. You don't have to go and learn everything. But if you click on this operators and functions, this is the link which will take you to the complete description of all the functions. So again, as I said, we don't have to learn all the functions. If you are using a particular function and you want a little more details about that function, how it is to be used, and what is the best way of calling that function, then you should go here. For example, you want to see the text functions. These are all text functions. There are so many of them. So you don't have to again go and do everything. Let's say I just want to understand something simple like A find. What is this find going to do? So this function basically returns a position of a string within a string of text represented as a number. So it basically will find the position of a string within another string and give you the number at what position it is starting. So that's it. Right? So that ways, if you want, you can easily learn few functions. But again, let me repeat it. You don't have to take all the functions and start learning all of them at once. Just try and do these one by one. Okay. Whenever you have a difficulty, you select any of the function. Let's say when I went to the if function, a mini description of that function is already going to be here. Okay, you can always have a quick look into this particular function and understand things from here itself. If you want more details on this function, you can click on help on this function, which is again going to take you to the same link, the operators and functions link. So it's going to take you to the same link. Correct?